Okay. Um, I believe we are live now. Let me see here. Okay. I think we're live. I think we're good. Just sorry. Let me just check on my levels here. Bear with me for a moment. Just a minute or two as I check these levels. And let me check these cameras. I think, okay, so I have two cameras. Okay, I wonder if that's gonna work. I really don't know. But, you know, we're gonna give it a good old college try. And, you know, if people are watching, just let me know. Let me know if you can hear me good, and let me know if you can see what I'm trying to show you. Cool. All right, so yeah, hello, welcome to the Black Ponder, this live stream, and you know we're in a I don't know what you call it. This is kind of a study area. It's kind of like the dining hall, but yeah, it's like a study area, and it definitely is a hall. It's not like a room. You can't close it up, so you're gonna hear all types of random noises. That's just how it's gonna be. You're gonna hear because construction workers happening on either side of the house. You know, doggies doing his thing. People are gonna walk in and out. You know, but it is what it is. And you know, of course you're not gonna get upset. It's life. It's life. Don't got the professional YouTube studio, no problem. And so that's where we're at today. And the reason why we're here is because, yeah, so what I want to talk about today is the topic is Eurocentrism and, you know, master narratives. That's what we're going to talk about today. And, yeah, so I do these live streams just to give you some background info. We do these live streams. I've been doing them for a while now because I'm trying to level up as a philosopher. You know, when I use my YouTube description as philosophy enthusiast, philosophy hobbyist. But, you know, I'm trying to level up and be like, let's level up to amateur philosopher. Let's actually call ourselves a philosopher. But how do we do that? We got to talk to people, as Socrates did. You know, he would walk up to people and actually talk to people. You know, it's not just talking at you, talking with you in a dialogue. And, you know, also talking to people who don't share the same opinion as you, right? That's really where philosophers' work happens, right? So that's what I'm trying to do in real life and online. So that's what we're doing now. And of course, like, this is a hangout. You know, we're just chilling. It's conversation style. So, you know, we don't have to be strict in the format of, you know, the topic. And if you want to go off on tangents, that's fine. No problem with that. You know, if you want to change the topic, that's cool. We can always just go somewhere else. I'm really good at steering the conversation back, going the full circle. I could do that. But we know we're just hanging out. We're chilling. So that's the thing. And then I also know, like, not everybody can be watching me because, you know, the time is people are doing things. So, of course, we're going to upload the stream when it's finished, and you can always continue the conversation in the chat below. And, you know, I've had many interesting conversations in chat after stream, which is totally cool. It's totally cool. No problem with that and all. Okay, so I'm just going to start talking, and if, you know, anybody wants to chime in, feel free to do so. Yeah, so let me show you, go to my other camera here. Hopefully this is working. I see the other camera. Hopefully you see the other camera. I'll leave the chat open. And I'll just drag the table. And so this book right here, I bought this book. I went to a museum. A museum, a good pastime of mine. And there was this artist. Oh, I didn't bring the brochure. Yeah, let me get the brochure. and show you some info about the art. Oh, thanks. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's this artist right here, and yeah, she made some nice artwork that we're going to talk about. She had a gallery, an exhibition, and yeah, we're going to center our talk onto that. And this person's name is Harmonia Rosales from Los Angeles. Making art that centers on Black experience, but through a European lens. So that's interesting. Let me know if, let me see, let's try and get the microphone as close as I can. Yeah, so that's the artist. And the exhibition was at the Brooks Museum here in Memphis, Tennessee. Okay, and that's the book we're going to be going through. So let me switch my other camera. Yeah, so it's important to, and I've mentioned this before in other videos, this concept of Eurocentrism, or being Eurocentric. So what's that? What is that? Well, there's this idea, it's called Western civilization. And Western civilization really is this concept, really. We like to think of it as this is like the truth. Like this is where, this is the birth of civilization, where it comes in Western civilization. It starts off, with the Greeks, the Romans, right? That's where it, really begins. Right, the Greeks and the Romans created philosophy is the story, as the story goes. We learn this in school. They're the ones who created the philosophy and democracy, and then what happens is you go through the medieval times and you got all these medieval philosophers, and then you go to the Renaissance, right? Then you go to Da Vinci and Michelangelo and all the other Ninja Turtles, right? Donatello, and this is the birth of when human beings become civilized. Eventually, Europe spreads throughout the world, conquering all the savages and all the the barbarians, and now we're here, and in the Industrial Revolution happens. That's where the technology comes from. And that's where we're all technical, right? And then it comes to today, right? And so of course I'm exaggerating, but I mean, am I really? There are all types of other civilizations and philosophical thought that's from many different parts of the world, including Africa. There's a lot of African thought, particularly African thought during the Greek and Roman Empire. That is just not even discussed and talked about because we don't really know about it. And there's many reasons for that. Primary reason is Eurocentrism, and then you take that over to the European colonialism, all right, where that was it was made. A focus was put on erasing the cultures of anything other than European cultures, right? Because it was the big business to dehumanize any culture other than European culture. Because if people conceived the people they were enslaving or exploiting as living, thinking beings, right? Then it would be a lot harder to justify their exploitation. And they did this, the European colonies did this with indigenous Americans as well. All this indigenous American culture is unknown to us today, right? And it's not so the thing is, we think that, the common perception is that these cultures didn't have philosophy. A common comment on my channel is why hasn't African nations had philosophy? Where Where has philosophy derived in Africa? Why haven't they derived philosophy? Of course, they had like very deep and rich philosophical thought, but because of European or just white supremacy, we don't know about it because it's been erased. And that was a thing with as European colonists would, enslave Africans and make it illegal or punishable by all types of horrible things if they expressed and talked about their culture and practiced their culture. So a lot of that was just erased, right? And that's the same thing. You look at indigenous people of America, same thing, where they were forced to go to these schools and they couldn't express their culture at all. They couldn't even speak their language. And so the thing is, it reminds me, I remember I did the video of one work from Jordan Peterson, right? What is it called? 12 Rules for Life. And the intro talks about how, there's this guy, this other author who's like, the Greeks invented philosophy. Like, no, they didn't. But we like to think that, right? And that's kind of the common misconception. Philosophy all started with Socrates. He was the one that gave birth to philosophy. And you guys there, like, I'm guessing like people who watch my channel they're in the know, but a lot of people aren't. And many of those people are philosophers, very well-known, credited philosophers. Or at least they're considered philosophers, and they say these things that they don't really want to acknowledge that, actually philosophical thought and, all types of other enriching culture was existing in many parts of the world. It's been erased because of white supremacy. Right? Hello, Torchu Gajal Pisces. Yeah, and then you're saying in the case of Native Americans is extermination too. Yeah, hello. Let's not forget these things. And I just bring that up. I mean, some people might say, "Well, it's obvious," but all the time I get comments on my channel where people are like, it's just funny how Africa just has no philosophy, or hey, it's kind of funny how Native Americans don't really. Where's the philosophy of Aztecs? Where's the philosophy of Mayans? They just didn't develop it. Of course they did, right? Of course they did. It's just, the extermination and just the erasure is prominent. So we go to this this book right here, this artist, and I'll switch the camera now over here. Let me bring back my chat window. And it's very good. It's very good. And we'll just start talking about this. And so Eurocentrism is like the master narratives. The art gallery, the exhibition is called Master Narratives. Master narrative. And the master narrative in the case of, the United States of America is white supremacy, or Eurocentrism, I should say. It's this idea like all of common thought originated from European and centralized European nations, and this is this idea that all valid and all valid schools of thought come from Europe, right? Which it's bogus. But let's talk about some of what's going on here. Let me see if I could just turn to some pages that I want to acknowledge here. I think I highlighted a quote here. Oh, here I can find it. Oh, here we go. Yeah, we'll start on this page. Let's see if I can read that. You can see that so this artist, what she's doing is, so she's actually self-taught. She didn't go to art school at all. So let me show you like her art, right? And if you see it in person, and let me do the GoPro thing, really focus. If you see it in person, it looks way better in person, right? Actually, this is knockoff, you know, a like a, you know, this is the birth of Venus, right? But it's like told through the or centering black culture. Now it's interesting though. It is called the birth of Ashun, right? So this is a gallery of mythology and African mythology that, like, who knows about this? Not very many people, right? Because like we are under the impression that the only mythologies that existed are like Greek mythology, Roman mythology, and then of course maybe Norse, with, you know, you got Thor and Odin and Loki and the Yggdrasil tree and all that. But there are many other mythologies, right, in many parts of the world that are, you know, and so this artist here, that's another one. And I'll show you another one here, right? And so it looks a lot like a Renaissance painting. You know, you look at it, and there's a reason for that. It's not like it's not just she's not just copying here, right? This is what's fascinating. It's funny because you can see my my electronics. Ignore the Nintendo Switch. That's not what's important right there. Let me see if I can show you some more pictures. Yeah, this is a good one. Okay. They are you know, very detailed, you know, paintings, and then we do have some glare from the light. Sorry about that. That are, you know, just as detailed as like the Renaissance masters, and this artist uses a lot of techniques. Look at that. It's crazy. Huh? That's an ear that she chopped off. There's a story behind it. Maybe I'll get into that. Let's see if I can find a good one. Here's another one. Yeah. Yeah, we got that glare. Yeah, I don't know how to deal with that. It's very good. So let me go back to my highlighted quote, wherever that was at. Oh, here it is. Here. Okay. Yeah, let's focus on this real quick. All right. So I was reading about the author. I mean the artist, and the artist. She did not go to formal art school, which is like mind blowing. But she's self-taught. But she learned. She picked up techniques that were, you know, from the Renaissance. Right. You know, the same techniques Michelangelo used, and you know, the same techniques Leonardo da Vinci used. You know, Donatello, all the Ninja Turtles, and then some, right? You know, and these techniques have to do with lighting. You know, she talks about, you know, for example, she talks about how lighting was like a huge innovator, how they dealt with light, you know, because before the Renaissance, pictures were kind of flat scaled. Like they didn't have reflection, they didn't have a lot of, you know, refraction of light, and wasn't, you know, particularly like skin, when light hits skin, the color of the skin changes. And the Renaissance masters understood that, and so they kind of created this new kind of art that reflected that, and it's gorgeous, right? But you know, if it's what she pointed out was interesting, because you see that for the white people in the paintings, just to be explicit. But when you see people who have very dark skin in images, they're very flat. The colors are very flat, just like before they figured out about skin tone and how it relates to light. So again, it's like, people with darker skin are getting ignored. But she noticed like it's not like that, right? People who have, and I'll show you that image again. Like people who have dark skin, when the light hits their skin, they also, their skin changes tone just as much as a white person does, right? So she was applying those skills to black people, which the Renaissance masters did not do, right? Did not do it. So that's so we're gonna focus on that, right? That kind of thing. Now, let me read you this quote. This is just a bunch of essays about the gallery. This quote says, okay, by adopting the visual lexicon of the Renaissance, she, the artist, uses the technique of the old masters, quotes, to deconstruct the Western canon and present alternate narratives in its stead. So, okay, let me go back to myself. Okay, here we go. I'm back. Let's see here. Okay, cool. So you might, the thing is, you might you'll look at these images, and they're all just they're imitations of masterpieces from the Renaissance. And you're like, what's going on? Is she just copying? She's just like putting black people in these images. But it's a lot more than that. Once you study it, once you start looking more deeper into the pictures, that's why this exhibition was really, I thought was very powerful, because it's not just like, oh, I'm just going to like put black people in images instead of white people. I'm just going to switch it. Right? She does a lot more than that. She's actually doing a social critique, right? And like the quote I read said, she's deconstructing the Western canon, which is what? The master narrative, Eurocentrism, deconstructing neurocentrism, and present alternative narratives instead, alternative narratives, right? Because, in the real world, like there are all types of different perspectives, right? There's not just the European perspective, although we like to think that, our society kind of pushes that. But there's all types of perspectives, like like what she's saying. She's focusing on this this mythology from the people that she came from her ancestors. So let me show you this. Okay, let me put the camera back. Okay, I'm trying here. So the thing is, like, let's don't get it twisted, right? Because you might be saying like she's just copying, right? But if you look at the old masters of the Renaissance, they did the same thing, right? So this is Michelangelo's. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, this is not. Oh yeah, it is. Okay. Oh, sorry. Let me. Sorry, the camera. Yeah, that's about as good as it's gonna get. Look it up. Here's the information. The Torment of Saint Anthony. So that's one of Michelangelo's masterpieces. All right, that's on the left. But he's actually copying an image that's on the right. That is, the same thing. The Torment of Saint Anthony. That's from 1470. Or to 1474, we don't know. And then this one was created in 1487. All right. So it's not the Renaissance masters did the same thing. They took images and they recreated them. So she's following a tradition that art masters do. She's not. So that's what they got to understand. Like, she's not just copying, right? She's following a tradition, right? But she's doing it in a way that's that's critically analyzing, like, she's giving a social critique, which is I find fascinating. So let's look at some more. So here's what she does it here. All right. Okay, I'll show you this one, and then I'll show you the big one that she does. Oh, that's so bad. The glare. There's no way for me to do it. I guess I could have looked it up on the internet and then showed you it from the internet, but that would take me a while to figure out with this streaming software, so we're not gonna do that. So that is this image. It is called what is it called? Abduction of Europa, right? Who's a god, I think, probably a Roman god, and he's on a cow, and that's a masterpiece. That's a European masterpiece. So, and then this is the artist from the exhibition. So let me show you the big picture, all right? Because we got a big picture. So let me. See if I can find it here. Somewhere around here. Oh, there it is. Excellent. Yeah. Now this is gonna be fascinating, right? In this image, just like the abduction of Europa, right? Here we have the abduction of. So this person right here is supposed to be Eve, like, she actually recreates. She draws Eve as this African goddess, right? Eve, the first woman, quote unquote. That's said in the Bible. Right, and that's this goddess of the mythology of her ancestors, who actually gave birth to Eve, right? And it's supposed to, and then here's a bunch of the other goddesses and gods of the mythology, and then we have this white lion here, and white lion represents European colonies, right? The European nations who took people from Africa and then brought them over from the Africa to the quote unquote New World, America. And so the white lion is representing of just this white European colonies, taking away Eve, which is humanity, right, and bringing them across. And this is the Atlantic Ocean, right? And so what we're seeing is a social critique. Is like the European style, but it's used to deconstruct, the master narrative, right? Which is the title of this exhibition, Deconstruct Eurocentrism. Let me go back here. And then you say, Pisces says, copying masters is still a popular thing for artists to do today. Again, imitation upholding the values of Eurocentrism. Yeah, and it's copying in and of itself is not as bad. It's great, actually a great way to learn. But I feel like sometimes, when if it's done by like white people, let's be just honest, like, it's acceptable. But when other cultures do it in the same way, they're like, oh, what you're copying? Like, what is this? But it's like, no, we have to remind ourselves that it's a thing that's been done, and it's a tradition. So here's another art, right? So we could just go through some of these images. Okay, so this is the portrait of Eve. Oh, so let me go to. Okay, yeah. So we may go back to this later. This is actually a portrait of Eve, right? Is that funny? Eve as a African woman now. Yeah, it's too bad. You got that glare. Oh well. If you're in the Memphis area, check out Brooks Museum, and then you will see, the image up close. It'll be great. It's also touring. I can tell you, maybe you might be lucky and it might go somewhere else in your neck of your woods. But check this out. This is, this image is so, you don't really have to know. It's just been so ingrained in our culture, right? This is the Madonna, right? This is the Virgin Mary, and that's like, you see that, and that's baby Jesus, right? We see, in the United States of America, I'm talking, but many parts of the world, you see that kind of mother figure with the halo, and then you see the baby with the halo. Like, oh, okay, yeah, that's Virgin Mary and baby Jesus, right? A classic image. But she flips the script. She's like, okay, I'm gonna make this image, but instead I'm going to have this is the supreme goddess of her mythology, of her ancestors, right? And she actually is the one who gives birth to the first woman, and that's Eve. And we just saw a portrait of Eve, right? So it's kind of like, this thing of like, the first humans are coming from this African origin, which is interesting because if you modern like anthropology, modern evolutionary theory, states that the theory is all the first human beings are originated in Africa, and then they migrated throughout the world from Africa. So is this kind of like a flipping of the script? We like to like the Madonna is like the origin story, but we're like, well, let's put this through another lens, another perspective, right? And it's interesting because they're copying. She's copying these old traditional art pieces, but she's also reflecting the beliefs of her ancestors, right? Because they believed this. They believed like, oh, there was this grand mother goddess who gave birth to the first people, right? So this is like not off kilter with what her ancestors believed. It's just a different perspective, right? But we're using the lens, the master narrative, to tell the story of her ancestors. Is that interesting? I don't think people critique it at all, though, is what your Pisces is saying. I think I'm saying that right. Yeah, people don't critique it, right? Yeah, and that's why I'm doing that. That's why it was such a fascinating exhibit. Right? People don't like take the time and be like, where does this actually originate? Anglo-C thing. Yeah, I know, right? Hello, Chris. I think I pronounced that right. And then there are actually images. Okay, that's not it. I want to actually show you images of Adam and Eve. We'll go back to a lot of these. Did I skip it? I might have. Yeah, this is some good stuff right here. Maybe I should have bookmarked this stuff, huh? I was busy in earlier today. Okay, here's a good one. So, this is the traditional Adam and Eve. But, using African, but it's so fascinating because it's like, it's this European art style, but it's the telling. It is even like telling a European, like Eurocentric story, the Christian story. That's this story, this creation story that's dominated, which actually I would say more accurately, Europeans co-opted, and also, that's another thing I want to talk about. But I'll talk about it. Let me stick to the topic I'm referring to. So it's like this Eurocentric concept that she's using, but she's using it to tell the story of her ancestors' belief system, and it's just fascinating how it doesn't conflict, right? She's using all of these European, even the characters, Adam and Eve, but she's using Adam and Eve telling the story of her people and the mythology of her people, and it doesn't conflict, right? So she's just like you're saying, Anglo-Sething, kind of like hijacking, but it's not really hijacking. It's very masterful what she's doing here. It's not like, oh, you're using these Europeans, so you're changing the story. It's like, no, she's actually not. That's how deep she knows what's going on. How deep she understands both the history of her ancestors and the history of the beliefs and the mythology and the stories of the Renaissance masters. That's another one. What's that? Oh, it's Garden of Eve. It's a Garden of Eden. It's little black kids, little black children. That's cool. That's dope. Let me go back to myself. Okay, we're back. Back to my office. Back to the office. And then let me bring this just in case I don't want to miss any. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, that right there is a rat enclosure. That's my microphone. Yeah, so that's where my wife has pet rats. And they live there. In case you're wondering, like, what the hell is that? Oh, sorry. You might have heard a bump. Sorry about that. But yeah, so let me tell you a little bit more about Eurocentrism. Eurocentrism is like a co-opting, right? Or, what's another word? Co-opting and there's another word, but I'll just stick to co-opting because I can't think of the other word. And it's it's fascinating, but what's interesting. Number one, the interesting thing is like that's not what this author is doing. This artist, she's not like co-opting. She's actually like using these European masters in in a very flattering way, honestly. But she's telling the truth of white supremacy, which is unflattering, right? So she's not like co-opting, and that's why it's so masterful what she's doing. But Eurocentrism co-ops, right? A good example. I remember, I talked a lot about Eurocentrism I did a video about the philosopher, quote unquote, Jordan Peterson, a person I'm not really a fan of, and he wrote a book called 12 Rules for Life, very best-selling book, very horrible book, has horrible ideas. I did a video on it if you want to check it out, but let's see. One of the things he talks about is he equates order with masculinity, and he equates chaos with femininity, right? And he says all cultures do this, which is completely bogus, right? But the problem is he's trapped in this Eurocentric point of view, right? Where that's like a thing that exists. However, like not all European cultures believe that either, right? What was it like? I pointed that out. Like I think I just pointed out in the comments section because there's Greek goddesses like Athena, I think is her name. Yeah, there's a Greek a goddess who's like she's literally the god of order. she's she's like she's like the god she's the god of order, right? But so it's like so it's like a lot of European, and there's plenty of like male gods who are like chaotic that exist in Europe, right? But but what's crazy about Eurocentrism is that Eurocentrism will co-opt its own culture and like bastardize its own European like cultures, right? To create its own narrative, right? That's the thing about Eurocentrism. It isn't just the case that this Eurocentric point of view that we exist in is kind of like white supremacist point of view. It isn't just that they are centering European. They're also like, what our society does is we even don't acknowledge like alternative views by other European nations. Our European cultures are like completely erased, right? Which is so Eurocentrism is like a co-opting. Right, that's really what it is. Right, it's funny because I got this Rembrandt thing going on because my lighting is so poor. So Rembrandt, you may know he's famous for like casting really deep shadows on faces, and I definitely got that going on. What if I turn this light on? Will that help? It helps a little bit, but it gives you this orange tinge, which is fine, because see now we're doing some like Renaissance art techniques. Because we got this orange light and it's like casting it. See, like this black. I'm black, and it creates all these different colors. Look, this side is orange and this side is light. It's funny because the Renaissance masters, if they painted me, it would just be a flat. I would just be brown. Like you check out, old school paintings of people with dark skin. You'll see flatness, but as you can see with the camera, that's not what's going on. And she makes that critique in one of her, in several of her paintings. She's like, I'm gonna actually apply the techniques that they developed for white people, but for some reason they didn't develop it for people of color because they want to center their attention on the white gaze. But she's applying it, so she's using the techniques that they developed and she's honoring them, but she's also critiquing them. Why don't you use your techniques on like for everything? Right? Your paintings would have been a lot better. Right? And then Chris says it's like when the girlfriend Chaos gets the boyfriend and go after strangers for supposedly hurting. Yeah, so I mean that brings up another point that I would it's just nuts, right? It's like I mean, if you're gonna go that route, we can definitely go like the whole like patriarchy thing and how like men are naturally violent and dominating, and women, quote unquote, like we create these categories: men, women. What do they even mean? I don't know. But in the patriarchal, which is Eurocentric, I would argue, point of view, right? You have like, the man is the violent dominant, the woman is the subordinate, like, docile, and it's like bogus, right? There are women who are docile and subordinate. There are women who are violent, and there are men who are docile just as much as there are men who are violent. And like these it doesn't. But we're conditioned to think like these things exist, and they're part of like natural existence, right? But they're not. Like what you're saying. Like sometimes you got the girlfriend that flips out when they get cheated on, and Just like you have the man that just does the same. I mean, and so like when that happens, it's like, oh, that's an anomaly. Like that's weird. Like no, it's not. It's just that. Like why are you putting people in categories? That's what's weird, right? And it's the same thing with Eurocentrism, right? Let's. I'll return to some of these other paintings. Okay, so hopefully my camera's still good. All right, excellent. Let me. Yeah, let's go to. Can we see this? Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, yeah, okay, so like you're not gonna see it in good detail because this is a GoPro 7. I think the GoPro 10 is out now. So yeah, it's not the highest resolution, but that you get what you get. But this is a telling of that is the a religious figure, Christian. And Christianity was used as a way to push European or justify enslavement of Africans, right? It's like, oh, we have to create them. We have to take away the barbarous nature of the African, right? If we put them in captivity, then they'll become like civilized, right? And we're doing God's bidding. Right? When we do that, and so you're seeing this depicted in this this image, right? So it's not just so it's this is actually pre-Renaissance, right? This is a lot of medieval art, which is the artists just studied a lot of that too, right? And so what I want to say for that is like Europeans, it's a co-opting. They co-opted Christianity too, right? Because Christianity came from where, right? It came from, the first Christian, Jesus Christ. He was a Jewish Palestinian. He likely had brown skin if you look at it anthropologically, or like. If you study the anthropology of it, and you look at the archaeology, the archaeology of it, right? If you look at it from like that scientific point of view, like Jesus likely the person that we refer to as Jesus probably had brown skin. He probably had coarse hair. And he likely was like a Jewish Palestinian, or like some sort of Jewish person from Palestine. So the origins of this religion are from the Middle East. They're not from Europe. Right. So, but like the Europeans took, which is what Eurocentrism is. It like takes other cultures, even their own, and co-opts them. Right. Kind of like bastardize them in a way like serves the purposes of white supremacy. Really, that's what is Eurocentrism. It is more so, the literal term is like centering Europe, but I would go further and say like it is co-opting other cultures in the service of white supremacy, and Christianity is included in that, right? That's something that one should understand, right? Because oftentimes you'll get the question of, well, why should Africans even, or African Americans, why even accept Christianity, right? Because it was used to exploit, and it's still used to exploit us too often. But you have to understand, like they're co-opting Christian, just like they co-opt all types of other things, right? And so what you need to do is you need to like step back and critically analyze, which is what this artist is doing. She's like analyzing what's you have to really step back and be like, okay, what is actually going on here? It's not as simple as that, right? And then Chris says, like a masterclass in trolling my family. I know, right? Yeah. it's interesting because it's you know, it's like I mean, it's like it's like the highest form of trolling. It's like, you know, I don't even want to use the word trolling because it will, like, but it is kind of like, it's like, I know exactly how y'all work. I'm gonna use your techniques and to critique you, but I'm not. I'm gonna do it in the most respectful way, which is, you know, kind of like, you know, it's both a high praise and a slap in the face at the same time. I mean, it's just masterful with this exhibition. I was floored. I definitely will visit it again because I'm just like, what I'm describing here is just the surface. Like the way she critiques, you know, the European art, but at the same time gives full credit and, like, you know, just respect at the same time to the old masters. Is just like, you know, this is some next level stuff right here. This artist is gonna go far. All right, see, I think the book was saying this artist, this is her first expedition. She's gonna go far. I'm looking forward to what the artist has next. So here's another one. Let me see if I can find. I think they actually show you the one that she copied. Let me see if I can find it. Or maybe they don't. I don't remember. Okay, so there's that one. But do they show the... No. I could have sworn they had it side by side, but maybe they didn't. Maybe I'm just tripping. Oh yeah, here it is. Oh yeah, there's another side by side. So, okay, Michelangelo's masterpiece. And what is this? The Last Judgment, right? You know, this is the end times. Yes, you know. This is where you know, that whole Christian idea of Christ will return and then Christ will cast the final judgment and then the world will end and all that. You know, I think this is like, this is not depicting the rapture, because the rapture is actually is a very new idea. Funny enough. You know, I think that idea came out in like the mid 19th century. But then here is the copy from the artist. Again, the artist's name is Harmonia Rosales. Still We Rise. Okay, you know, and that's an ode to Maya Angelou, Dr. Maya Angelou. You know, Still I Rise. And, you know, you got a Confederate flag burning. That's good to see. I believe there's a serpent here, and this serpent is part of the mythology of her ancestors, and apparently it's like, I think when the world is created, or when the world, it's like a symbol. Like when you see the serpent in the sky, that's like an omen of some kind, right? And it's, you know, a serpent. So, and of course, like there's a serpent in the Christian stories. You know, the Satan disguises himself as a serpent tempts Eve. But you know, the serpent as a concept has been in many mythologies, right? Many mythologies, and she's showing you, like, yeah, you know, the Christian serpent, but is also the serpent that's in African mythologies. That's how far-reaching the symbolism of the serpent is. And of course, we're seeing European colonialism, you know, enslavement. I mean, this is indicative of the Last Judgment, where people are, being judged here. And, you got your hellfire and brimstone. Yeah, sorry, the glare is not the best. Of course, you got the crucified Christ. Yeah, you can barely see that. Yeah, sorry. But there it is. And, on the other side, you got these slave ships. And you got these auction, that's a person auctioning off a baby to be sold to slave. I mean, the same horrifying situation going on. Similar kinds of horror. And, you can spend all day just like comparing and contrasting. All right. And then, hello, APM 111. Did you get a chance to read Rethinking Identity by Kwame Appiah? No, I have not. Yeah. Nope, sorry. So, you guys, but, keep recommending me books. But you gotta understand, people recommend me books all the time. I have a long-ass queue of recommendations. So, if you recommend me a book, you're going to get put on a list of maybe 75 other books, and you're gonna go at the bottom. So I don't know when you recommended me that, but if it was last week, yeah, no, I'm not. It's gonna be a while. But yeah, so just FYI, let you know. Okay, so let me leave you at a cool image while I go feed my doggy. Let's see if there's anything else I would like to talk about. It's a great image, but it's just not holding itself down because the page is not flat. Yeah, it's not the best, perspective. But I'm gonna go give my dog some food, but I'll be right back. Okay, we back. Yeah, and so this is another image of, some. Because so the thing is with the European images, particularly the medieval stuff, there's a lot of end day images and images of hell, because that was the popular thing then. That kind of divine comedy type of stuff. And so, and she knows this, And she's like, oh, okay, I'll the metaphor that I'm going to use is the enslavement of Africans and the Middle Passage, right? The trip from Africa to America as now a slave, right? With that horror, right? And she uses a lot of that to like juxtapose the image, the Divine Comedy type of images. The 12 steps of or whatever levels of hell. That's another one. Eventually, that's the Divine Comedy. I'm gonna do a video on that one, and that's like higher up on the list of my queue list. So you're gonna see that before you see Rethinking Identity. But I'll definitely check it out for sure. I'll definitely check it out. Check it out. It's like it's a mermaid. It's a mermaid. That's cool. Yeah, but some of that slave ship imagery there, but coming into the Americas from Africa. Let me go back to some of the more like the creation stuff. These I think I already showed this. These are some primordial gods, but these are African gods, and they just kind of have these poses that are indicative of the European depictions of the Renaissance depictions of Greek mythology. Here's another. That is Ori. Did I pronounce that correctly? No. If I didn't, I'm sorry. Likely didn't pronounce that correctly, but O-R. I'll show you. There it is. That's it. Primordial god, of course, lots of nudes, because that was another style, the nudes. She even does like the 16th chapel, but she does it, and it's actually like on the ceiling. Let me show. So I'll show you this last one, I guess. I wonder if it'll, because it's great. If I can show you, it is actually. Oh, here it is. This is actually in the exhibit. It's on the ceiling. It's like an imitation of the 16th chapel, but instead of on a chapel, this is actually the hull of a slave ship. It's like the ship is upside down, so it's like the depiction is the ship is sailing on the ceiling. All right, and you're looking at the hull, or you're looking at the, I don't know, the barge. I don't know what the names, the parts of a ship is. The top part, right? But you're looking at it from the top. It's as if the ship is sailing on the ceiling, so it's upside down, right? And that's like all these images of African gods, but it's also like the telling of the them going to the Americas and the enslavement they had to deal with. It's like this story of this African culture, the mythology and all, right? But it's told through this European style. All right. Okay. I think that's good. There's a lot more, but I think we'll end it there. Okay, we back. And then put that up. And so, I would just like to conclude by saying, yeah. So let's think about the master narratives. Like, think about like the things that you know about history, about the origins of civilization, right? And think about the things you don't know. It is not the case that like philosophy was invented in Europe, right, or Greece, right? Philosophy has existed in many nations. And sophisticated thought has existed, in ancient times in many parts of the world. Like, it wasn't just from Europe, right? And there's all types of mythologies that are like not surface level mythologies that are just as deep and rich as like Greek mythology that has existed. It's just like we don't know a lot about them because of the erasure of all these cultures due to like European colonialism, right? And then further down the road, which would result into this now white supremacy, which still is like erasing culture, as we see like currently in particularly in my state, in the United States, Tennessee, but in many other states they're banning books that have alternative views, right? They're literally banning books about racism, right? Because they might make kids uncomfortable. And it's not just banning books about racism. They're banning books about perspectives from queer people, LGBTQ plus people from that community, gay perspectives, transgender perspectives. These books are being banned. You can't even, not only in schools now, it's like libraries are having difficulty stocking them, right? They're going in that territory. So it is this erasure that happens, and it's been going on throughout history, right? So just take some time and consider, like, when you think about other parts of the world and you're like, I wonder why I don't know much about that, and the common idea is, oh, I guess nothing came from that part of the world. It's interesting because a lot of philosophy masters thought that, like Hegel, the guy that wrote the Spirit of the Phenomenology of Spirit, a philosophy masterpiece. But even he's like, oh, Europe, nothing really came from Europe. Europe actually, I'm sorry, he definitely believes stuff came from Europe. Like, that's where he thought most stuff came from in terms of culture and philosophy. But Africa, you can read a lot of his lectures that talk about, Africa has no history. He said that, right? Lots of philosophers say that, and that's, there's this idea today, right? And it's, I just want to make the point that, it's a race thing, and it's a nationality and cultures thing. But, I always want to push the whole, queer, LGBTQ thing, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, this new phenomenon of transgender, it's not a new phenomenon, right? Transgender people have existed always, and so has all types of queer people. It's just like there's this false perception, like that's the thing that never was around, but all this erasure is going on, like the banning of books, like the imprisonment, or like making these type of things, these ways of being these identities, making them illegal, right? And then so there's an erasure that happens, and then people don't know like these things and these cultures and these perspectives of being actually even exist, when they do. So pay attention to the master narratives, right? Keep a watchful eye for Eurocentrism, and let's not fall victim to white supremacy, shall we? And with that, I will the stream will end here. But thanks for watching. Thank you if you made some few comments. That's cool. If you're like one of the lurkers, that's fine too. Not everybody's cool for watching. And if you're watching the video later, that's cool too. Always feel free to comment below. And I'll see you probably next week for some more philosophical thought live. So yeah, I'll see you later. Bye bye.